Guildmaster Tyler. Just remember to say that.
Life is a right time. Greetings from the Guild, gamers. I'm Guildmaster Jason.
Guild Leader Larry.
Guild member Tyler.
Welcome to TableTalk Tuesday. So, for those of you who don't know, TableTalk Tuesday is when we, Plant City Gamers Guild, give you guys a little bit of tips, tricks, advice on how to run and also how to play some of your favorite role-playing games like Pathfinder, Dungeons & Dragons, Shadowrun, what have you.
Now, don't worry, guys. These tips aren't going to be for everybody. Some of these are the homebrew things that we bring in. Some of them are personal flavor that we really like. Take what you will, bring it to your table. If it works for you, that's awesome. If it doesn't, don't get mad at us.
So today's topic of Table Talk is going to be narrating damage. So the first thing I want to bring up about this is when you're talking about damage, the first thing you got to look at is hit points. And according to the player's handbook, hit points represent a combination of physical and mental durability, the will to live, and luck. So basically the point here is not all damage draws blood.
I gotta agree with that. There was a campaign that we were just doing, Tales of the Yawning Portal, where they were actually going against a creature who had plate mail. And instead of letting every attack that the characters had draw some kind of blood, a few of the attacks actually did nothing more but dent his plate mail in. The cool thing was, Kevin, who plays Artemis, had just used heat metal, so it was kind of compacting him even more into his armor, almost making it impossible to rip off. And unfortunately, that's what he died from.
Yeah, that melted him.
Oh, so like I said here, there's a lot of different ways, like Larry was saying, that you could narrate damage without actually drawing blood or your character taking in any kind of wound. For example, you could say, he's like, one thing it mentions is it's a combination of luck. So maybe when you only did 3 or 4 damage to a creature, maybe what actually happened is you just swung your sword extremely close to him and you can see him getting nervous. You can see the sweat rolling down his face. That can represent hit points going down as well.
And that's a very cool way to do that because it kind of gives an interaction between the player and the game itself so that it's not just a hack and slash, cut and dry kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you attack and you cut their arm. Maybe you cut their hand and they lose their grip on the weapon. So you could bring, like you were talking about earlier, disadvantage on an attack roll.
Right. So another thing, like Larry said, you always have, if they have armor or they have a shield, you smash a nice little dent in their armor, you leave a nice little hole in their chainmail where maybe now it's easier to attack them. And lastly, there's always the flavor, like, say maybe, once again, you only did a couple hit points worth of damage. Maybe you didn't attack them, maybe you cut a necklace that they're wearing, or maybe you cut a portion of their hair off or something. Mm-hmm. Something that adds a nice little flavor of your combat without immediately just ending up with a villain that before it's down to half HP is just covered in dents and scrapes and scratches and bruises.
What's actually cool about that is a lot of people don't think about is you can actually attack weaponry and armor itself. You don't have to kill everything you fight. Mm-hmm. You can shatter swords. You can dent armor, you can shred armor, you can tear hide armor. All of it imposing disadvantages of some kind or completely destroying the AC bonus or the attack bonus that weapon gave them or armor gave them.
So basically the big thing is, it's as long as you're showing some kind of visible change, it doesn't necessarily have to be a wound. So another thing is, so now we've talked about not showing damage, not showing wounds. Of course, we have to show the other side of that is when you do want to draw blood and narrate about that.
And that's something that we kind of take as the DM, depending on what you're battling or maybe how much time we have in the session. Maybe I'll let you narrate every kill for every orc that you guys do. Or maybe I'll take some for myself to kind of speed things up. Because don't get me wrong, everyone wants to have the really cool Highlander, there can be only one kill. But unfortunately, for everyone to do that, it slows the game a lot. It really takes away from other people wanting to play. So sometimes it's okay to let your players do it, but sometimes you've got to take that responsibility on as yourself. And don't get me wrong, as DMs, I sometimes like to think we're a little more creative than the players that we have sitting there. So maybe from an outward perspective, we see things a little differently, and we can make a really cool description of what's going on. A perfect example is when your character fight Caracas. in the room. That could have just been a cool little storm raging, but I wanted to change it into like a strobe light battle, where you would have pitch black and then a flash of light, and you could see characters moving. See, Jason was so immersed into his barbarian and just battle itself that's what was on his mind, was bloodthirstiness. So he, like his character, was pretty sighted in only on what he wanted to do, which was completely destroy the character that was attacking him. But I kind of gave it a little bit of that extra flair so that everyone else sitting around the table could be like, wow, that's pretty cool.
And it really did make for a memorable combat that I honestly don't think I'll ever forget. So one thing I want to talk about here is, like I said, when to narrate the drawing of blood, the wounding of a creature. You guys can let me know your opinion. Personally, for me, when you're battling a creature, I don't think you should actually narrate physical wounds on the creature until it's at about half HP.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. Like, arrows I'll kind of do, they're sticking in maybe, but maybe it doesn't really phase the creature so much because they're so high in HP.
Or even just graze its past.
Exactly. Maybe it leads a quick cut where just a little blood goes in the eye or something. So it doesn't have to be crazy every time.
So choose whatever you think is right for you, a quarter, 3/4, halfway, but once you reach that mark, that's when you want to start narrating that your creatures are actually taking some damage, just so that halfway through the fight, they're not already looking cut up and like they're about to fall over, when actually they've still got plenty of HP left.
Mm-hmm.
And if you guys are ever wondering about this, there's actually a chart in the Dungeon Master's Guide for you Dungeon Masters. It's under the injuries chart. It's on page 272. And it even lays out to where if a creature takes a critical hit, or a creature drops to 0 HP but isn't killed outright, or when it fails a death saving throw by 5 or more, maybe that creature takes on some kind of lasting injury, like a broken rib, or a festering wound, or even losing an eye or a limb itself. It can really flavor things up and kind of make people think twice about being the crazy raging that just wants to kill everything. Maybe it's smarter to kind of slow down a little bit and really assess what's going on in your area.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing that I would always narrate physical damage whenever your players roll a natural 20 on a hit, because you just never want to tone down a natural 20.
Oh, agreed. Now, again, only for attacks.
Right.
Not skill checks.
Right.
Sorry, guys.
And so nat 20s, and I would say anytime you roll excessive damage, even if they're still at max HP, if someone rolls a ton of damage, they roll max hit dice plus maybe they had Hunter's Mark, or anything like that, I would always definitely narrate some physical damage there. Anytime that their damage that they inflicted is above average, we'll say.
Oh, for sure. That's a good way to do it.
Basically, the point there is whenever it is appropriate for your villains or your enemies or whatever you're creating to take physical damage, don't rob your players of that moment of heroism.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, you really got to listen to your players. Because, we might bring the world to the players, but you guys bring the players to us, or your players at the table. That's their flavor. That's what they bring to your game. And you control so much as a DM that you kind of got to let them have that. Yes, they know their character. You play your character well. You know your spells. You know this. But if you don't get to do some cool stuff with that character and kind of add your own personal flavor to it, then what's the difference between what we're doing and just playing a basic video game where it's cut and dry? Mm-hmm. And that's what I like about it is you let people bring their type of flavor. Maybe not everyone is very critical where they cut Achilles tendons or they cut femur or femoral arteries or anything like that. Maybe your barbarian is a face smasher and let him be a face smasher. But for your guys that really want to add a little more to it, as long as it's not crazy excessive, like we talked about earlier, I smash his face, I slice his throat, I break his arm. You're not like Master Ken the Kung Fu artist. I know y'all have seen those.
Unless you're a monk.
Unless you're a monk, yes, exactly. So, and if they do a really good critical for your kill, maybe give them a couple little extra things that they can add in.
Right. And so the next thing I want to talk about is varying your damage narrations. Too many times with a DM, especially when you're in the middle of combat, it's easy to get caught up in so many things. You find yourself using the same flavor words over and over again. I know I'm really bad personally about, I tend to say, you just bludgeon his arm, you just bludgeon his back, you just bludgeon into his spine. It's a trigger word that I use a lot in my narrations, and it's just best to try and avoid doing that if you can. Try and mix up your flavor text that you use.
Yeah, for sure. You kind of got to sometimes expand further on what you would normally go for.
Right.
Like me, I try to add things in here and there. Maybe the arrow pierced their leg and they snapped it off. Or maybe it caved in their chest cavity, like you guys did when y'all didn't really kill the guy, but
Yeah.
I think someone smashed his chest into a point where he was really low health, and that
this
was
is where you
almost
can
the
really
end.
start to take a lot into account what the players are saying with their attacks. Like if they're descriptive with their attacks, you can play that into your flavor text of how the attack hits. Or
Oh,
whatever.
exactly,
So, like,
exactly. I always try to listen to the players for the most part.
Yeah,
on that.
you have to.
So definitely just try and mix things up as much as you can. Instead of using the same words, just a sword slashes into your arm, an arrow grazes past your side, a great club smashes into your back. Just using as many different flavor words as you can. If you have to, open a dictionary.
And I mean, it's the fun part of being a DM is, like I said, I know you guys are creative, and really we're sitting back for a lot of this because we run monsters for one short part of a round, and then you have all of your characters running.
Yeah.
So really, it's almost like you're watching a movie. So how would your brain put it? And that's kind of how it is when I'm DMing like Yawning Portal and stuff. I'm really just sitting back watching what's going on in my brain. I always say that what we do is an art show for those creative enough to see exactly what we're doing. And a lot of people, I think they kind of listen to like podcasts and stuff so they can listen, not watch. I don't care to watch the people on screen.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching us, though.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's not the same. We're not doing voices and stuff. But it really, it piques my interest more, and it really gets the juices flowing to hear how other people do it. Like you said, good. What was it? Good artists borrow, better ones steal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good artists borrow, great artists steal.
Exactly. There's going to be people who do things better than you. It is okay to take some of that on your own. You're going to make changes to it, and you're going to make it yours. But it's okay to have that baseline.
And just one last thing on mixing up your narrations. I know as players, a lot of times we always want to go for the headshot. And the biggest thing I would say when you're narrating these attacks as DMs, save your headshots for the kill. Even if they attack towards the head, maybe they dodge and block with their arm and their arm gets all messed up. But just, it seems silly for you to take a hand axe to the head and then a mace to the head and a great club to the head and he's still got 30 hit points left.
Yeah. He kind of looks like the guy from Goonies now, but he's still rocking. Hopefully. Yeah, it doesn't make it as fun when you're the NPC or the enemy that you're running, like you said, has taken smash after smash after smash after smash to the face, and for some reason is not blind,
Right.
or he can still hear for some reason, for that matter. So you really got to change that up, and we've learned that if you listen to your players. A lot of you guys, when you attack, you'll say, I raise my weapon and do this. All right, roll to attack. All right, it hits. And then I'll narrate pretty much what you tried to do, depending on how well or bad that you did.
Right, and lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
I think we're on Brutish.
Yeah. So one thing I want to get here is basically there are lots of different kinds of enemies that your players might fight. There's brutish enemies like orcs and goblins. There's more skilled people, assassins, spies, people like that, and you really want to play up the flavor of these creatures. And brutish creature kind of going back to what I was saying earlier. Brutish creatures they like to aim for the head. And even if say the target's well guarded, maybe it's a paladin that's just ironclad in plate armor everywhere, but they're still gonna aim for the head just because they're brutes. That's
Exactly.
what they know.
Yeah, exactly. They focus on the strength that they bring. They're not the smartest creatures all the time, so they're not going to be like you're talking about looking for them weak points or anything. They know head smash usually works, and that's all they've ever cared to ever go through with.
And then just looking at their general fighting style, they're going to be very savage and brutish. They're kind of just going to turn themselves into a human battering ram, essentially.
Exactly. And you really have to. I think it makes it a better immersion process when you actually kind of play into these characters, like Kel found out.
Yeah.
Kel, he was kind of on a bloodlust rage fury, and he was going up, and he was going down, and he was going up, and he was going down, and he charged at these 2 orcs. One of them smacked him on the way past because there was 3. He wasn't paying attention to the one. It invoked an opportunity attack. Kel went down again. He slid, and the orcs took that as an opportunity. Of course we're going to kick the guy in the back of the head. Of course we're going to take the cheap shot. And both of them blasted him with a spear. And when you're unconscious, that's 2 death fails each time. So unfortunately, that was the end of Primar, which I don't think a lot of DMs will play like that. But Dungeons and Dragons is not fun, to me, if it's not somewhat realistic. Not every character is going to go, hey, that guy's down. I'm going to leave him alone. Yeah. If you're fighting a big group of guys, the second someone goes down, you access that and you take that out. That's done and over with. You have one less enemy on the board to deal with.
Right. And
that's how players would operate.
Exactly.
You know, how it worked, but they don't get death saves. So
well, normally if you go down, you're dead. There's no save needed because you guys are ruthless.
So that's just kind of creatures that are more attacking more brutishly and more savagely. This kind of brings us to the big difference between skill and experience, because to me, skill and experience are not the same thing. Orcs, goblins, creatures like this, they are experienced in battle, they know what works, and they continue to use that because it works for them. But that's not the same as skilled. Like I said earlier, your assassins, your spies, these are people who have trained their entire lives. They know the art of combat like they know the back of their hand.
And a lot of your assassins and spies are not very strength-based characters. So you have to be very dexterous in how you attack, and you have to be very calculated, because even though they can do massive amounts of damage, let's face it, these characters are still pretty squishy in damage. Right. You can't take a lot. So with rogues, it's really cool that they have that bonus action disengage. So you can hit it and quit it, so to speak. Yeah. Get in, get out, cause as much damage as possible, but take as little as possible while you're at it.
Exactly. Right, and as far as narrating that, like I said earlier, with more brutish creatures aiming for the head and aiming for, a throat slit, something like that, these creatures are going to be a little bit smarter. Maybe you don't have any, your players don't have any armor on their shin. That sneak attack, maybe say they slash across their shin and it brings them prone. They're going to aim for the most, they're not going to be as, not going to have as much tunnel vision as like an orc who's just going to always aim for the head. They're going to analyze their opponent and find the weakest spot.
And that's the really cool thing about the characters who play like that. Normally, they're very perceptive characters. And like I said, you have to play like that because you have to know your weaknesses and your strengths and weaknesses as a character. A lot of people hate min-maxers. I don't really hate on them too much. It's still part of the game. It's still legal. And if that's how you want to play your character, that's how you want to play your character. But not everyone knows how to build that character. Not everyone's been playing so long that they know exactly where to go with what to do, which I don't really find fun myself because that's a railroaded system in itself because you know exactly how you're going to go. That's the character you'll end up retiring after a while. That's not the one who you play constantly and have fun.
Right. Yeah. And one more thing about these really skilled artists of combat, basically, a lot of times they're not going to be as clear-sighted as eliminate my enemies. They're going to have a little bit more of an end goal in sight. And so when you're narrating these combats, keep in mind a skilled assassin or a spy, they might not be trying to end your players' lives. They might do what your party normally wants to do to you and subdue and interrogate them later.
And I mean, not just on that itself. Maybe the skilled assassin doesn't even want to be a part of the fight. Maybe they disengage and run. Maybe they cherish their life over losing it just for a really cool combat. Because as fun as it is to completely destroy an enemy, what's more fun as a DM is to create a reoccurring enemy that can come back and cause problems. Someone who works to outsmart your players. Someone who makes them think, because I think that's what also brings fun into it. Because like I said, D&D isn't just supposed to be a hack and slash, very cut and dry game. You're supposed to have flavor to it. My favorite example is Strahd. I love watching people run Strahd because he's very open about what he does, but they do give you a baseline of he really likes to mess with the players. He's not there to kill you outright. He's there to instill terror, so when you do finally face him, it's an epic battle to go for.
And so that pretty much brings us to our last point is when you are going to kill off a character, or when a character does kill off one of your creatures, you definitely want to be able to prepare for narrating that death.
Yeah, for sure. Whether it be you doing the narration as a DM or the player doing the narration. Something that we kind of just made a rule with our last game with Kel's death. Tyler wanted to say something. He wanted to reach out to Stormlord and ask for to avenge the Primarch.
Right.
Yeah.
Which he was unconscious. He shouldn't be able to do that. But don't rob your players of that death. Let it be a glorious death.
Let them have a last moment.
Exactly.
Last
Right.
words or heroic gesture or something of that
Exactly.
sort.
So if you guys watch our streams, you've probably heard Larry say more than once, narrate your kill. New rule that we're going to start incorporating after last night is also narrate your death whenever a player character dies.
Yeah, because nobody wants to go out like Glenn from Walking Dead. Like, you would really rather have some kind of control over your death. Like,
Especially a character you invested so much time in.
Exactly. You don't want to just have your head smashed and now you're the puddle on the floor. You know,
Yeah.
that's not a cool way to go out as a character.
Unless that's how you want your character to go.
I mean, you're not telling stories in Valhalla about that one.
Yeah.
You might lie about how that one actually happened.
And basically the biggest thing with player deaths especially is, keep in mind, it's a big event. Even if it doesn't feel like a big event to you as a DM, I'm sure to that player, it's obviously a huge element to the story for them. And that's why I think letting players narrate their own death is such a cool thing, because it lets them upplay that moment, the significance of that moment as much as they want.
And depending on how it's upplayed, maybe that drives the story even more. Your character went into a complete fit of rage as soon as you seen Primar go down. And where you guys were kind of making silly decisions about how to fight, not to say anything about y'all's combat, but it was very drawn out for what you guys were doing. The rogue was hiding over and over. This guy's hanging back. This guy's doing this. Once you went down, it was like a whole different party. Mm-hmm. Everyone just wanted to kill. It was a bloodlust. And you guys dropped people quick. I mean, they went from full health to no health in like 2 attacks, which was really fun. Even though you guys are running through
felt like my death had an impact.
Exactly. Even though you guys are running through the combat that I put in, yeah, it's fun to drag those out and make it a good old knockout, drag-out fight. Sometimes you really got to drive that along and kind of speed that up a little bit, and that helped do so. And I mean, even what you're talking about, not all the time though should you give everybody a narrate your kill.
Right.
Yeah.
Narrate your death for sure.
Right.
You should always have that. But narrate your kill. I mean, everybody wants to go for the cool James Bond moves, or everyone wants to instant kill everything, and they want to do this and that and this and that and this and that. And if everyone wants to do this and that, this and that, this and that, I don't even have to do anything about that as a DM. I don't even have to run combat because the whole session's already over. So sometimes you've got to take that. Just sometimes, not all the time. Don't be an a-hole about it and be like, this is my glory, this is my death I narrate.
But on the flip side of that, one thing I do want to talk about, going back to letting players narrate their kills, not their deaths, but their kills, remind your players maybe in session 0 that when they're narrating their kills, they get a little bit more freedom here, because since it is just flavor, the mechanics don't really matter. Maybe you dual wielded on your attack and your first attack missed, your second one hit, and it finished him off. In your narration, it's totally fine for both of your attacks to hit because it doesn't change the mechanics at all. The character's already dead. So you could kind of make it a little bit more flamboyant, a little bit more outrageous. But like we were saying earlier, you don't want to make it too ridiculous to the point where everybody at the table is looking at their watch waiting for your narration to be over.
Maybe your ranger wants to dance around the enemy doing cuts here and there until they're almost bleeding out. Maybe your barbarian is in such a rage he grabs the enemy's head and smashes it against the wall continuously and blood is spraying. You know, however your characters want to kind of tie that in. I try to go with whatever you guys can do in about 10 seconds.
Right.
So whatever you guys could have done in the full round of everybody, that's what you get for your narrate your kill. You'll get about a 6-second window. And then after that, I would like to move around and keep it going for everybody. Not everyone's going to be able to do that cool kill that you got.
Right.
And everyone's going to be waiting to get their own. So you got to let them have that.
Yeah, sometimes it's cool just to say, I raise my arrow, shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes
Classic
headshot's the easiest way to go. Down and it falls.
And so that's player death and NPC death. I want to talk about one more thing that it doesn't happen very often, but it does occasionally come up in story, and that's when you as a DM are narrating an NPC killing another one of your NPCs. And this is a thing that a lot of times, I won't say this a lot about your narrations, but this is one moment where a lot of times it's really appropriate to glaze over that, because as a DM, you don't want to spend minutes of narration going, and then he stabs him here, and he grabs him here, and he pushes him down here, and because your players are eventually going to be sitting around the table waiting for their chance to play once you're done.
Or just looking at this person so abhorrently because they're just the evilest thing on the planet. And, I mean, unless it's really to push your story along, maybe you want to symbolize how dark and evil a certain cult is. So you have them slicing throats in the streets, sacrificing people. If you want to give that some flavor, that's fine. But like you said, if it's just a basic bar brawl, or perfect example was when I had Artemis had poisoned an orc. The orc was down. He had 2 HP. Orcs aren't very smart, and they're very brutish in everything they do. So an orc saw his friend went down. He went over and he went to gruffly grab him and punch him to wake him up. I rolled a little high on the damage. I only wanted a 1. I rolled a 3. He clocked his buddy in the temple and hit a shut-off switch. So he unfortunately... And I didn't want to give that some long, drawn-out thing. I just sat there smiling while everyone knows exactly what just happened. And it just turned as he killed his friend.
Why you no wake up?
Yeah, why you no wake up?
An exception to that is, one time that if an NPC kills maybe someone who's been going with the party for a while now, say Urky, for example.
Oh, poor old Urky.
You completely forgot about him.
Never stood a chance.
If it's, a PC that especially your players or your characters have expressed a lot of connection to that character, and they really like role-playing with that character, deaths like that are ones that you do want to flesh out some, because that's a beloved NPC of theirs. You don't want to glaze over their death.
Completely forgot about Urkies.
Yeah. And I found something that's pretty cool that I've noticed a lot of PCs do. It's not required. It is seriously only flavor. With Kel, they had kind of a sacred kind of a ritual for your death. When we had Eric die in the other campaign, his character was brought back to town, and they had a funeral in town. And it's cool to watch that, because, like I said, that's not something that's really covered in D&D.
Right.
That's not something that there's a chart for or something, That's what your players bring to the table. Don't take that away from them. If they want to have a memorial service, sit back and just let them RP the crap out of it. Maybe this will bring them together more.
I thought it was really nice what they did.
Yeah, until the rogue tried to strip you naked while you're on fire before you even go.
That's Milo for you.
Yeah.
Let's see how he fares in a party now.
That was rough.
So I think with the last thing here with narrating not only kills but just damage in general. One issue we face a lot, especially those of us who get a lot of our game inspiration from video games, is you get to a point where sometimes you need something to happen in game, and do you want to narrate it as sort of a cutscene, where your players aren't really interacting with this so much, you're kind of just describing what's happening. A lot of players aren't going to like that because they feel this is supposed to be a living, breathing world where they want to be able to interact with what's going on.
Which, I mean, I totally understand that, and that makes sense. We had Kaul when he was a drow who came to the surface. All he wanted to do was explore Waterdeep. I didn't put that much into that part of Waterdeep. You guys were supposed to go to the tavern, have some drinks, and then the fight would ensue at nighttime. I had a kind of a railroaded backbone to it where you guys could kind of fill in the blanks along the way. I did not expect him to go out into the town, so unfortunately I had to play into almost the racism against drows by the surface dwellers and kind of put him in his place by 2 city guards who really just didn't want to deal with him. Just please go back to wherever you're supposed to be. He tried to do a magic trick, they just seen him as ignorant, and they really just wanted him to go away. Thank God he took the hints. And what I was talking to Tyler about earlier, and it's to be fair to your DM. I know a lot of people want that really open sandbox game, but some of us, if we're running pre-made modules, yes, you can sandbox it some, but some of us actually want to see this story through. So a lot of us read the book, and we already know how things are supposed to go and how cool that would be. Yes, you might derail it some, but we have to bring you back on track somehow. Don't get mad at your DM about that. It's really it's a story that you guys are bringing together on both parts. It's the DM and the PC. It's not you versus them versus you. You work together.
And that pretty much, in conclusion, I guess one thing I could say that applies to not just character death, not just damage in general, but really the whole cutscene thing and anything with D&D. The biggest thing is just knowing your table, the people you play with. Generally, when you're playing D&D, it's with a group of friends that you've probably known for a while. You know what they like in their games. Yeah, they know how you like to run games. You know each other's strengths and weaknesses as role players. And basically, it just comes down to try and provide the best experience that you know your friends are going to enjoy.
See, and what I love about that is, like, not to say that we're better. I don't want to put it out in any way possible. With what we do with trying to bring Plant City together and having D&D groups that are constantly playing and stuff, a lot of the characters we have at our table, we've just met. We don't know how this is going to run. And we're really just hoping for the best. I mean, we'll try to lay it down like some simple,
We brought Carter in yesterday, and I think none of you had ever even met him before yesterday.
Dude, I was fully taken aback. I really was. I was not expecting that. I was fully taken aback. He knew what the D20 was.
Yeah.
And he knew to roll it. Like, that was great. And he knew how to look at his attack die. I mean, he's still working some things in, but we ended up giving this kid a round of applause just because he's someone who's never played before, and he RP'd the hell out of some stuff. I mean, he was going off of the backstory I gave him, and he's going in a whole different direction. And I didn't even want to correct the dude on anything because I was like, all right, well, that's canon in the story now. Just wants grog. Not the character, the drink.
Yeah.
The Travis Willingham in here.
I think that about wraps it up. Anything else you guys want to say about narrating damage?
About covered it.
Like I said in the coverage, man, just like let your players have that. Let them bring their flavor to the table. You handle so much as a DM. You have your NPCs, you have your worlds, you have your bosses, you have your conflicts, you have your random encounters, you have your factions, you have gods. Let them handle the flavor, all right? I promise you, you're not going to be disappointed. I have 6 brains working with me, and that's what's really cool is that we've all come together on that collective narrative, and we're really pushing the story along. I could not be more impressed with what's going on.
Oh yeah, be on the lookout because starting next Monday we are going to be running Waterdeep and Dragon Heist.
Yes. Tyler will do his first time DMing for Plant City Gamers Guild. We're going to put an event for him. We'll switch up our live screen so that it incorporates the characters that we're running for his game. I think we're almost full set on characters.
Yeah, well, we should have everybody. It's the 2 of you. It's basically everyone that plays in the current campaign except for Carter and Kevin right now.
Okay, so we're sitting at
full
full right now.
All right.
So there might be an opening if you guys want to come to us or come to Tyler. If someone drops out, you know it always happens with D&D. Not everybody can commit that time. No, for sure. I mean, our table doesn't handle more than 6.
We only fit 6.
So unfortunately, we're not trying to cap you guys. It's just this table is too beautiful to overcrowd, and then you guys can't even see how great it is.
So look forward to that next Monday around roughly 6:30. Tomorrow, actually, you guys can look forward to my Warforged Wednesday streaming HeroScape via Tabletop Simulator. That'll be around about 7 p.m.
So if you guys got some downtime in that area, drop by. Like giving us a view is pretty cool. We work more towards our goals. If you can give us a follow, that's amazing too. We're still working towards affiliation. It's not really something that's a super big deal to us, but you know what? If we've got goals that we can accomplish, let's bust through them. So we need you guys to help us with that because that's what we've done as a community is bring everyone together. So if you guys can help us with that, Plant City Gamers Guild or twitch.com/Plant City Gamers Guild, drop by, give us a like. Obviously, you're there right now. Click the follow button. Click subscribe. Pretty sure there's another icon that you can click, and every time we go live, you'll know about it.
So I think that about wraps things up. Until next time,
Game on, gamers.